Split some fries?
Let's get this to go.
This better not awaken anything in me.
Hey guys, welcome back to Rewind Reviews. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a trailer talk for a brand new Disney Plus series, She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Set for release on August 17th, this 9-part Disney Plus series, it follows Bruce Banner's cousin Jennifer Walters as she navigates the complicated life of a single 30-something attorney who also happens to turn into a green 6'7" superpowered Hulk. The series stars Tatiana Maslany, Mark Ruffalo, Tim Roth, Jamil, and Josh Segarra. Honestly, I was quite surprised that this dropped as soon as it did because I was still expecting maybe like a few episodes of Miss Marvel to have been released before this was officially unveiled, but it was a really nice surprise to actually see it, and we finally got a proper glimpse at not only what the series is going to be about, but the tone, how the She-Hulk's going to look, the characters that are going to be included. Honestly, it does look pretty good. I've been a fan of Marvel Comics for a really long time. There's been so many different characters that I've wanted to see be depicted in live action. We've got a lot of those characters over the past few years, but one that we've never really seen before is She-Hulk, and she's a character that I've always wanted to see be depicted in live action because I feel like there is a lot of potential for what they could do with her. The only issue is that with the Hulk movie rights being owned by Universal Pictures, I don't know if that's still the case. It did mean that unfortunately we weren't really going to be getting like various Hulk projects because the Incredible Hulk didn't really do as well as it did back in 2008, and they kind of pulled the plug on any sort of future Hulk projects, and with the MCU kind of taking him and starting to do their own stuff with him, it didn't seem likely that they were going to be making any more. So the possibility of having like a She-Hulk centered project or just She-Hulk showing up in general just seemed really slim. So it is great that we are getting to actually see this character. I'm not too in depth when it comes to She-Hulk in terms of who the character is. I know she's Jennifer Walters, I know she's Bruce Banner's cousin, I know that her origin story revolves around a blood transfusion. I'm also aware of the contrast that she has with Bruce Banner. Bruce is all about being quite a timid guy who turns into this gigantic, scary, angry monster, whereas Jennifer is quite has got quite a lot of self-doubt, and she's quite reserved, but when she turns into the She-Hulk she's a lot more confident, she's a lot stronger, and I think that the way that the two characters are contrasted against each other, it is a really great dynamic, and it's something that I hope that they do get to explore in this series. So this trailer very briefly gives us a bit of an overview of what this series is going to be like, and very clearly it is definitely going to be a comedy. It does seem to give off a bit of a sitcom vibe, not necessarily in the same ballpark as like WandaVision was. It's more like a modern kind of sitcom in a way, where it does seem like it is sort of playing up to a few of those sort of tropes with like She-Hulk going on like dates and trying to balance her work life and of course now her superhero life as well. So it is an interesting direction to take. It does kind of suit the tone that I'm familiar with when it comes to She-Hulk. I think that it is different enough from what we've seen before. I do think that the character of She-Hulk is quite well suited for the tone that the MCU has established. She's quite a self-aware character, and that does seem to be the case here. Not necessarily to the case of breaking the fourth wall, which is what she was quite famous for doing back in like the 80s, I think. Weirdly, she actually does predate Deadpool when it comes to that, so whenever somebody says, oh, they're copying off of Deadpool, well, he nicked it off of her. I said in my Doctor Strange review that I do think it is possible to have like a fourth wall breaking moment or some way of them doing it in this, because with the show kind of focusing more on her being a lawyer in the courtroom, it does make sense that maybe it could be televised and you could have the camera be something that she interacts with, and it could be like a really fun way of them sort of doing the fourth wall breaking, but not necessarily doing it within like breaking continuity in the universe. One of the things I was quite curious about them doing is what she was going to really sort of look like, what sort of design were they going to be more inspired by, and I'm quite happy with the direction they've gone with her, because it does seem more like the earlier days of She-Hulk, and I do think she actually does look pretty good. I like that they've gone a bit more of like the supermodel kind of direction, especially like with her sense of like fashion, the way that she's got like a different costume on in every scene. They are adapting the suits, they are definitely making it more accurate. She does look pretty good when it comes to the overall design, and like the hair pattern that they've gone for, it does look quite good. It does look very unique for her. I think it's pretty cool that she's even got like the sportswear sort of look as well, with like the little purple, black and white colours, so it does sort of reference her comic book counterpart. I've got to be honest, I was a little bit worried that they were going to be sort of adapting like the more modern version of the She-Hulk, where they've basically just recreated the Hulk in a way. So I am glad that they have contrasted that and they have gone more for like the early days She-Hulk, so she does look like a bit more like sexy supermodel in a way. Because one of the biggest things that I always liked about the She-Hulk is that in contrast to with Banner, she actually does prefer being She-Hulk. She actually does prefer being big and green because it gives her the confidence, it makes her more powerful. I think there's a lot of storytelling potential that they could have there. Because what if you had all this power and then one day you just decide that you want to be normal, but because the world prefers you to be a certain way, would you cave to that and would you want to be something else? And it does look like they are going to address that in some way, and I do like that they are sort of building up like She-Hulk becoming more confident, especially like the glimpse of like her going out and dating, but then contrasting that with scenes of her at work where she looks quite uncomfortable. And I think that it can be a really great source of conflict, and I think that this could make her a genuinely interesting character. But if I have to address the elephant in the room and talk a little bit about the CG, which has kind of become a bit of a controversial thing within like hours of the trailer going out, because the CG on her doesn't look great. It looks fine on certain scenes, like when she's like at the restaurant and she's going out dating. Some of the close-ups of her actually do look pretty good, but a few of the more wider shots just don't quite look right. And compared that with like you've got Professor Hulk, Smart Hulk in this series, as well as the Abomination, and both of them look absolutely fine. So it is really strange having a character just not look as good as the other two. Potentially it could be because both of those characters were created using mega budgets for movies, whereas this is just a limited series. The series comes out in August, so there is a time for them to fix a few of these things and just tweak it a little bit here and there. But based on things like Moon Knight especially, I don't necessarily think that they are going to be going ahead and fixing things. It could genuinely just be like an early screen test that they wanted to do and just sort of give people an idea, just give everyone like a little taste of what the series is going to be like and what sort of tone that they're going for, but it's just not quite finished yet. But I do feel like if it is going to be coming out within a few months' time, there isn't a lot of time for them to really sort of tune things up as much as I think that they probably could. So we'll see. But this is only really like a little teaser trailer, so we get a few little glimpses of a few of the characters that are going to be making an appearance in this, such as Titania, played by Jameela Jamil, as well as somebody called Frogman, who I've never heard of in my entire life. We also get the Abomination, played by Tim Roth, who's finally making a proper comeback after his brief cameo in Shang-Chi. He is a pretty interesting villain. I think that he was pretty good in The Incredible Hulk, but I just think that they could have done a little bit more with him back then. But it is great that they are starting to actually acknowledge things that did happen in that movie, because it seems to be so disconnected from everything that's happened in the MCU. So it is great to see not only the Abomination back, but Tim Roth actually playing him. It's also been quite recently confirmed that Wong, played by Benedict Wong, is going to be making his appearance in this, and he very slowly has kind of taken over the MCU. He seems to have just appeared in absolutely everything. I love the character, so honestly it doesn't bother me. And with Jennifer Walters doing a lot of lawyering in this series, I am wondering if a certain somebody is also going to be making an appearance. There have been rumours, but we won't know until we actually see the series. So it'd be great seeing Matt Murdock and potentially suiting up as Daredevil. There's been rumours that he might be wearing his yellow suit, but again, that's just rumours at this point in time. I also like how they are giving just a little brief glimpse of maybe the origin story. So you see a car flipping, and potentially that might be the accident that leads Jennifer to becoming the She-Hulk, which does beg the question of how does the blood transfusion work? That is a question that I have had even in the comics as well. Even though I know what happens, I do feel like there are ways around it that could make it very believable, and I think that whatever direction that they go in, I hope that it really does work. Another question I do have is when this actually takes place within the MCU timeline, because it does seem to have like jumped forwards a little bit. I don't know what the distance of time is between this and Shang-Chi, because that was the last time that we saw Bruce Banner as Bruce Banner, not the Hulk, and his arm wasn't mended, he was still in the cast, and yet in this he doesn't have the cast, he's just fine, and he's Professor Hulk pretty much throughout the whole thing. And I'm also quite curious how it is that the Abomination is now able to become human again, because I thought he was kind of stuck in that form, because we see a little brief glimpse of him in a holding cell. It's the same one that you see in the background in Shang-Chi. We don't really get to see like what it is that's happened to him within the time since The Incredible Hulk, so I'm curious to see what it is that they do to make him human and whether this sort of ties into the overall plot in some way. Because I feel like what they could have done with, especially when it comes to the Hulk, I'm 50-50 on what they've done with the Hulk over the past few years, because I feel like it has taken a lot of the inner conflict and a lot of the more interesting aspects of that character away, because he's pretty much cured now and he's happy being the Hulk, which kind of now goes against that contrast with She-Hulk, because that was the thing that made her so unique. Because I was kind of hoping that maybe there was going to be a sequence where like the Abomination's being pretty much like maybe cured in some way or being able to turn back into a human, and Bruce Banner in his desperation decides to try and use this cure to make him human, but something goes wrong and it makes him worse, and he becomes the Hulk again and he goes on a rampage, and She-Hulk's got to try and stop him and calm him down. I think there's a lot of conflict that could come from that, and I think that the action would be pretty good, and I think that the emotional resonance for it would be pretty cool. Could also get a bit more of a Thunderbolt set up with the Abomination maybe getting released and trying to stop him as well, and him and She-Hulk having to team up to take the Hulk down. Be really interesting if they actually could go in that direction, but I highly doubt it. I am curious what direction they are going to go with the Hulk in the future, because it feels like most of the stories that they could do with him pretty much either being done or kind of stopped because of this change. There's still a lot of stories that they can tell with the original Avengers characters, because we still have Thor and we still have Hawkeye as well, and there is a lot of potential for those characters to do a lot more, but I don't know for how long that can really keep going on for, especially with a lot of new characters being introduced. But when it comes to this series, based on first impressions of the trailer, I think it does look pretty good. I think that it could be quite funny. I'm hoping that it is a genuinely funny experience. I do think that hopefully it will be a lot more of a series rather than trying to be just like a chopped up movie. The pacing's been a bit of an issue in a lot of the different Disney Plus series, especially with things like Moon Knight and Falcon and Winter Soldier. They had great stories, but it's just they either went on too long or it was just either unnecessary stories that were just thrown in. So hopefully this one has a really good balance of both story and character, and I really hope that this is one of the best series that they've made. It looks genuinely fun, and I think that the cast that they've got for it is really great. I'm not too familiar with Tatiana because I've never really seen things like Orphan Black. I've been told about it, I've been told to watch it, and I keep meaning to, and I'll try and get around to it as soon as I can. So I think honestly, first impressions, she does genuinely seem like a really good pick for this character, and I'm really excited to see what she brings for that role. I do genuinely hope that this is a really good series. Out of all the ones that they've been announcing so far, this is actually one of the ones that I was more intrigued by because of what they could potentially do with it. So I do hope that it is a really good series, and I hope that it is one of the best ones that Marvel has made. I'm also kind of happy that there isn't too many fan theories swirling around this one, because that can have a bit of a negative effect when it comes to these shows, because people just expecting so much from them that when ultimately they see what it is, that they are kind of let down. But yeah, I do think it does look pretty good. I'm cautiously optimistic. There could probably be issues with it. There's been a lot of rumours that it was being quite messy behind the scenes, so I'm hoping that's not the case, and I'm hoping those rumours are false. It does seem like it could be a really interesting series, and I am excited to see where it can go. So that's all I've really got to say for today's trailer talk. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, please subscribe. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the trailer. If you have anything that you want me to have a look at and review in the future, let me know down below. Also be sure to hit the notification button to keep up to date on everything that's going on this channel. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Rewind Reviews. See ya!